This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
James, I'm excited for this weekend, man. Of course, you've got Texas. You've got Oklahoma State, who you beat in Stillwater this last year, plus TCU, who's been a perennial baseball program the last decade or so. I mean, man, it doesn't get much better than this to open up for Arkansas, does it?
No, it really doesn't. And Ty, I appreciate you having me on. You know, it's usually you start at the season or sometimes, and it's like you got a lot of midweek games and you kind of ease your way into it. But this format, you're really coming in, right out of the gates facing some really top-tier talent.
James, I want to go back to your freshman year and some of the games that you played. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but we saw some true freshmen come in, Tiger, Hagen-Smith, and had great seasons for the Arkansas Razorbacks. A couple of them preseason All-Americans, All-SEC. What does that transition look like going from a wide-eyed, bushy-eyed freshman to coming into your sophomore year and be expected a lot more from Dave Van Horn and Matt Hobbs?
Yeah, well, I think different guys adjust on different time frames. It took me a little bit longer compared to maybe someone like Zach Jackson, who came in and had a little bit bigger impact. Obviously he's a big leaguer now, so he may have been a little more talented than he was to begin with, but it is a transition. It's something that you have to kind of get accustomed to. But when you're coming into a big series like this and you've got, really big time talent, the freshmen who contribute are really the freshmen who, can slow the game down, who can kind of, keep their wits about them and really perform. And it's just going to be a matter, especially early on, how do these guys handle the big stage and how do they handle kind of the expectations that are put on them for a season, for a staff that's really supposed to be very good.
James, let's talk about the offseason and kind of what builds up. You had fall ball, and then they've been back for a month or so working. Been told that there's has been a number of some of the pro Hogs that are going back to professional baseball soon that have been training and working here during this period. What's important that's come out of the last 30 days to get this team ready for this opening weekend?
Well, I think really the last 30 days is really fine-tuning the lineup. It's really fine-tuning what guys we want to be in what roles. Going in, coming out of Christmas break, you say we've got, 10 or 15 arms. How do we want to put these puzzle pieces together? And then I think the last 30 days, you're kind of finding out, okay, who do we really like and what roles, not necessarily for the long term, but who's going to get those first opportunities to show us that they should be a weekend starter, to show us that they should be the closer, or, it's all a trust-building experiment. You come in and you're young and you don't have a lot of experience, you want to be a guy who they turn the ball over to, that they think, I can trust this guy. This guy is going to get me outs, and I know that he can slow the game down, remain calm, and stay focused. So really, I think for the coaching staff, it's figuring out, who are those guys and who's going to get those first opportunities.
Having some of the former players in recent years that are still playing in minor league systems or maybe even in the show right now, having them around training in Fayetteville, I know there's been a handful of them that have been on hand. What does that add to the preparation for a team, for guys that have been there and are at where you're trying to go?
Well, I think you can see it in their demeanor and the way they carry themselves and the way they prepare and the way that they're confident. We saw a lot of big league guys who threw bullpens in the offseason and were like, it doesn't seem that different, or it doesn't seem, that exceptional, but they just had this thing about them, this aura, this confidence that they knew how to get their work done. They knew how to prepare, and they knew that when the lights turned on, they were going to be ready to go. And I think sometimes the younger players come in and they're, 100 miles an hour, max effort every bullpen, throwing all day, every day, trying to get the feel. The season's coming up, kind of in a, well, not a panic state, but just a more, inexperienced state. So I think the older guys on the team, and then especially the older guys that are around in the pro level, they show guys kind of how to go about their business, how to prepare. And I think just that example itself is really beneficial for those young players.
We're talking with James Teague of the Teague Law Firm this morning, a little Arkansas baseball conversation. James, you guys had a unique season in 2015. Didn't look like at one point you were going to make postseason. Then you went on a run. You had to go to Stillwater. Ken Atkins brought the spoon. You guys came back to Fayetteville, beat Missouri State, and then ended up in the College World Series. This team last season goes to Stillwater, goes to Chapel Hill, ends up in Omaha. When you see your team and this team last year make it still to postseason that deep. What's your opinion on the importance of still getting a national seed, playing in Baum Stadium in postseason when this team's shown that they can go to other places and win it too?
Well, I think having the national seed is really important just because you can't, understate the effect that Baum has. I mean, I remember walking out for Game 3 of the Super Regional knowing, this is a rubber match, perform or go home, go to Omaha or go home, and just feeling that energy at the stadium and just feeling that support, and really in the first inning scoring 3 runs and then never looking back. And so, it's obviously important. It's not the only way to do it. We showed last year we can go somewhere else and do it. But, when you have a place like Baum, you're going to have an advantage if you're able to play at home.
James, that season, Vanderbilt, when 2015 was the College World Series runner-up, you think about last season, Arkansas was in the semis, Ole Miss wins it. 2 years ago, Mississippi State wins it. I mean, the SEC West is so stacked. You've got Arkansas picked right now third by the coaches, Ole Miss, A&M, LSU right now picked. I mean, when you look at the conference as a whole, how difficult is it week in, week out to go up against some of the caliber players you have to play in each SEC venue?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. It's incredibly difficult. And you look at a team like Ole Miss last year, they were really struggling halfway through the year. They were just trying to get into the postseason, similar to us in 2015, and then they get hot at the right time and they go all the way. And I think that's what makes it difficult, too, is you can't really set rankings of these teams are at the top and these teams are at the bottom, because you see a team like Ole Miss get hot, and then, if you would have played them earlier in the year, you may have been able to sweep, and now they're giving you fits every single game. I think that's one thing that really makes it difficult is a lot of teams get better as the season goes on. A lot of arms get more conditioned. A lot of lineups get used, or not completely used to, but somewhat used to seeing SEC pitching. And, everyone's making adjustments. Everyone's adapting. Some do get worse, but I think a majority get better. And so there's no easy weekends. You just got to keep grinding. You got to keep plugging away and just try to compete and win ball games.
The loss of Jackson Wiggins, Tommy John surgery, going to be gone for the year. What does that mean for this team and this rotation as we start the year?
Well, it's a huge loss, and I think everyone recognizes it's a huge loss, and I hate it for him. I will say if we're ever going to have a loss like that, you want to have it when you're deep, when you have a lot of arms, and it seems like that's what this staff has. I know we were able to bring in some guys off the transfer portal. We've got some younger guys who are contributing. We've obviously got a great arm in Hagen Smith and Tiger. So, I think that we're going to pick up the slack. I would have loved to seen him throw, and I'm sure Hog fans across country, would have loved to seen kind of what we were all hoping he could become. But I think we're going to be able to fill in the slack and compete just with the depth that we have.
You talk about the depth of pitching. I think a lot of people would consider that the strength of the team. When it's all said and done and we're kind of evaluating everything and adding up all the totals in June, will that be what we're saying, that pitching was the strength of this team?
I like to say it'd be kind of a whole-rounded effort. I think the pitching depth is always a strength because, listen, if you've got a guy who has an off week, you need someone in the middle of the lineup who can give you 4, 5, 6 innings to bridge to your bullpen to give you a chance to win. And if you don't have that, you have bullpens that get really overextended and taxed, or by the end of the year, they're worse than they were when the year started. I think we've obviously got some great returners on the lineup as well, and a lot of new guys who could very well perform. And maybe offensively, it's the side of the team that is better. But it's hard not to be optimistic when you look at the numbers, when you look at the returners on the staff, and you think about what this staff could become.
James, I want to jump outside of baseball for a sec. As a guy that went to an Oklahoma high school, now knowing the Sooners and the Longhorns are joining the league next year, what's the excitement level for getting to compete as a former Razorback and watching your team compete against probably some friends that went to other schools and at Texas and Oklahoma and Norman?
Yeah, we can finally put the Big 12 SEC debate to rest. That'll be the positive. You grow up in Oklahoma and everyone's like, oh, SEC is overrated, this or that. And you point to the numbers and you say, well, I don't see that. Show me somewhere. It seems like a strange opinion. But, bringing those teams in and being able to say, all right, here's where the rubber meets the road, let's compete. I think that'll be exciting for everybody. We've obviously seen in football kind of the SEC dynasty build between Alabama and Georgia, and then we've seen national champions in baseball between, like you talked about, Ole Miss and Vanderbilt and Mississippi State. So, I'm excited for those, top-tier Big 12 programs to come in and, in my opinion, get a taste of what, real competition is really about.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. Well, James, I know you're used to closing innings for a number of years, but now you're closing cases with your dad at the Teague Law Firm. I mean, this is a firm that's nearly 30 years in the business, has won Best of the Best in 2019 to 2021. You're doing a variety of things, family law, your criminal law, and real estate needs. I mean, you're helping people out all over the place.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to think of the firm as the Swiss Army knife. It's the guy who can start, he can relieve, he can, eat up some innings in the middle. We do a lot of different things. And I think one thing about our firm that I really appreciate is just the personal aspect that we bring, the relationship that we build with clients. When you have especially family law matters, those can be very touchy, those can be emotional. And it makes me feel good to know that I'm building a connection with these clients. We're really working together. We've got a solid game plan, in the same way you have with sports. How do you prepare? What's the game plan, and how are you going to execute to ultimately get to this result? And really, it's the same mentality, in the law world. It's, meeting with the client, getting to know them, their needs, and then executing a game plan to ultimately make sure they're taken care of.
And it's not going to be one of those things where you're talking to 5 or 6 secretaries either. You're going to, at some point, they're going to get your cell. And if they want to give you a call, it's 479-531-2785. Again, 531-2785. Well, James, excited about this weekend. Excited to hear from you every Friday on halftime at 12:15. And we'll see what this team does in Globe Life this weekend.
Yeah, Ty, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to, be with Phil there at 12:15 every Friday, and we'll see how the season goes. I know we're all excited.
I'm excited too, man. Well, James, appreciate you waking up early with us this morning. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right, we'll do. Thanks.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.